Assalamu alaikum fam, hope you're doing fantastic. Let's continue our reading of the lives of the Caesars. We got into so many cool facts about Gaius Julius Caesar, the most infamous leader of ancient Rome, one of my favorites. I used to have a little statue of him, but when I became Muslim, I put it in the recycle bin because that would be a form of idolatry. But I did have a statuette of him. So we learned that he personally directed exercises of gladiators. He would pay to have novice gladiators trained. He raised the amount that the soldiers were paid, and he also helped certain gladiators be trained in the private houses by Roman knights. So he has definitely been a friend to masculinity, manhood, and the more formidable people of his empire. Let's continue. We're in paragraph XXVII. Moreover, to retain his relationship and friendship with Pompey, Caesar offered him his sister's granddaughter Octavia in marriage, although she was already the wife of Gaius Marcellus, and asked for the hand of Pompey's daughter, who was promised to Festus Sulla. Okay, so we have some cool figures here. Octavia is very famous, and I do remember her being offered to Pompey. And it's interesting when you think about how does Gaius Marcellus feel that one of the most powerful men in Rome is like offering away his wife, to another very powerful guy, Oh, that was a suck for him, man. When he had put all Pompey's friends under obligation, as well as the great part of the Senate, through loans made without interest. Look at that. So Gaius Julius Caesar is given interest-free loans, son. Oh, that's smart. Or at a low rate. He lavished gifts on men of all other classes. So look at that. He's paying attention to the plebs, the plebeians, right? Both those who he invited to accept his bounty and those who applied to him unasked, including even freedmen and slaves who were special favorites of their masters or patrons. So he's even looking at slaves too, seeing who they were, both slave owner and slave. In short, he was the sole and ever-ready help of all who were in legal difficulties or in debt, and of young spendthrifts, accepting only those whose burden of guilt or of poverty was so heavy, or who were so given up to righteous living, that even he could not save them. And to these he declared in the plainest terms that what they needed was a civil war. Oh no! Uh-oh, someone's in trouble. He took no less pains to win the devotion of princes and provinces all over the world, offering prisoners to some of the thousands as a gift, and sending auxiliary troops to the aid of others whenever they wished. So look at that. So we Italians, we have quite a unique history. Caesar is sending, prisoners by the thousands as gifts, Wow. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And sending his auxiliary troops to aid others, and as often as they wished, without the sanction of the Senate or people. Aha, so here you can see didn't always get the permission or go through the procedural process. But do remember he did pay for, certain people to enter his ranks of his legions with his own money. Besides adorning the principal cities of Asia and Greece with magnificent public works. So here, he also does public works. So he's focused on the soldiers, he's focused on slaves, he's focused on helping the local markets, and now he's done public works. So he really is using his money in many dynamic ways, as well as those of Italy and the provinces of Gaul and Spain. At last, when all were thunderstruck at his actions, and wondered what their purpose could be, the consul Marcus Claudius Marcellus, after first making proclamation that he purposed to bring before the Senate a matter of the highest public moment, proposed that a successor to Caesar be appointed before the end of his term, on the ground that the war was ended, peace was established, and the victorious army ought to be disbanded. Also that no account be taken of Caesar at the elections unless he were present. So look at that. No account unless he is there, since Pompey's subsequent action had not annulled the decree of the people. And it was true that when Pompey proposed a bill touching the privileges of officials, so look at that, touching the privileges of officials, meaning if Pompey's going to propose something, right, that reduces or just touches upon the abilities of certain politicians, he wants to know about it. In the clause where he debarred absentees from candidacy for office, so what does he say? Debarred absentees from candidacy. So if they're not there, they cannot be a candidate. They have to always be present. Now, how does that create a problem? Because Caesar is absent a lot, conquering Gaul. You see? To make a special exception in Caesar's case. So here, Caesar's like, well, can you make an exception for me? You know? And did not correct the oversight until the law had been inscribed on a tablet of bronze and deposited in the treasury. No content with depriving Caesar of his provinces and his privilege, Marcellus also moved that the colonists whom Caesar had settled in Novum Commumum by the bill of Suetonius should lose their citizenship. Look at that. So Marcellus is making a move against Caesar. Remember how Caesar awarded some of the people of Gaul citizenship? And he armed them. He trained them in the Roman way of militaristic warfare. Here Marcellus is like, actually, let's just reduce it and take away their citizenship. And the bill was called, the bill of Vatinius is its name. Very sneaky, right? Very sneaky. Imagine, you're just trying to earn your citizenship and stay in Rome, and the politicians are trying to find a way to get you out, on the ground that it had been given from political motives and was not authorized by law. Oh, well, I mean, of course it was political motives, right? Greatly troubled by these measures, and thinking, as they say, he was often heard to remark that now he was leading a man, he was a leading man of the state. It was harder to push him down from the first place to the second than it would be from the second to the lowest. Caesar stoutly resisted Marcellus, partly through vetoes of the tribunes. Okay, this is important. Vetoes of the tribunes. And partly through the other consuls, Servius Sulpicius. That's a cool name, look at that. Servius Sulpicius, when next year Gaius Marcellus, who had succeeded his cousin Marcus as consul, tried the same thing. Caesar, by a heavy bribe, secured the support of the other consul, Aemilius Paulus, and of Gaius Curio, the most reckless of the tribunes. So look at that. If you're called the most reckless, you must have done something, right? But seeing that everything was being pushed most persistently, and that even the consuls elect were among the opposition, he sent a written appeal to the Senate not to take from him the privilege which the people had granted, or else to compel the others in command of armies to resign also, feeling sure, it was thought, that he could more readily muster his veterans. So look at that. More readily muster his veterans. So they know Caesar has some pretty loyal troops. That's been something that, I mean, many historians of, warfare have talked about, was Caesar's legions were very loyal to him. He fought alongside them, ate what they ate, conquered with them. He was a man of his soldiers. And remember, he increased their pay, right? So they had a lot of reasons to love him. So the senators are like watching out for that relationship. They're being cautious. As soon as he wished, then Pompey, his newly levied troops. So look at that. Pompey has newly levied troops, whereas Caesar has his veterans. So what does that imply? The veterans are more bonded to Caesar, whereas Pompey, he just got his new troops and they might flip sides. You never know. He further proposed a compromise to his opponents, that after giving up 8 legions and Transalpine Gaul, he be allowed to keep 2 legions in Cisalpine Gaul, or at least 1 legion and Illyricum until he was elected consul. So look at that. So he wants at least something. But look at that, giving up 8 legions in the territory of Transalpine Gaul, and then he wants to be like, okay, at least give me 2, and let me retain Cisalpine Gaul. But then he even reduces it further, at least 1 legion, and then the territory of Illyricum. So he really wants to be like, you can't take away everything, you have to give me some type of compromise, because he knows he's in a position of authority. He's got money, he's got territory, the respect of the gladiators, the soldiers, and yearly tributes from other territories that he can use to fund any opposition. So, wow. He's sending auxiliary troops to other areas. He is definitely doing his best to get allies in Asia and Greece so that he can keep up his alliances and keep his position. So, man, indeed, ancient Rome is fascinating. So we'll pause for there, and then further we'll get into the next one, into Marcus Cato, the infamous Cato. So I hope you enjoy, fam.